Hello and welcome into the KE Report. I'm your host, Shad Markwitz, and today we're getting an update from Scottie Resources. Scottie Resources is traded on the TSX.V under the ticker SCOT and on the OTCQB under the ticker SCTSF. And we are talking today with the CEO of Scottie Resources, Brad Rourke. And Brad, it's great to get you on the show as always. You put out some news to the marketplace on the 8th of September, and it's really highlighting some of the first holes from your 25,000 to 30,000 meter biggest drill program ever for the company. And out of the first five holes, you came out swinging here. You've got some high grade hits in three of the five holes, but the headline hole here, 30 grams per ton gold over 23.65 meters. And inside of that, there's a chunk 83 grams per ton gold over 4.4 meters. And another hole, 9.2 grams per ton gold over 21 meters. Now, this is at the Blueberry contact zone. So those are some high grade hits, even higher grade than we're used to seeing at the project. For being the beginning of the drill program, got to be impressed with that. But give us the key takeaways from the team on the ground, and what is the key takeaways you want investors to have about these first few holes, Brad?
Well, business as usual. I mean, those are a little bit elevated than we've had in the past. I mean, the headline hole's the best hole we've ever drilled in the history of Scottie, and we've had some really good holes in the past. Now, just so everyone knows, these are an exercise of us taking the Blueberry open pit material from an inferred to an indicated status. So these are one of the things, if we want that permit and be able to produce ore in 2028, this is one of the exercises that we have to do, but very encouraging. In fact, that hole's in between two other good holes in the Fifi Lamafi vein, but it's actually going to elevate everything around it. And that's kind of how these resources work. So when we put that PEA out in October, this won't necessarily be reflected in that. But when we do an updated MRE and such, we're very encouraged. And then the second headline's a 200 gram meter hole, which would be, pretty exciting for us, period. And we have to throw that in there because we feel that it's material and just get all the news. But yeah, that's our first five holes. And I hope we continue seeing other results similar to this.
Yeah, and so as you say, this won't be in the resource model that's factoring into the economic study, but this is all gravy on top of that. And as you're doing some of this infill and expansionary drilling, it looks like you're about 14,000 meters into this program so far. So where can you tell us some of the next holes to report will be coming from? What areas are you drilling that we'll see some future assays from?
Well, that's a tough question, Chad, because you send your rocks out and then it depends on whatever that tech bag they grab. So these holes just don't come into how you send them out. But I think, we started off just at Blueberry open pit because that's the easiest drilling for us and we're waiting for snow. We didn't put the exploration holes on the queue until probably about 3 weeks after we started, and that'd be up and around the Scottie Gold Mine stuff. So we've done a good program there. So I think again, I'm just guessing, but for the next 5 weeks or so, we'll probably just see Blueberry holes before we get into some of the more exploration type scenarios. So we're probably into October before we see those ones.
Well, let's talk about some of the other exploration holes that you're going after because there's a lot of targets here just besides Blueberry. In addition to the Scottie Gold Mine, there's still C and D. There were some new targets you're going after. And there's some step outs from existing holes. So maybe talk about, for the whole program itself, where will some of the targets be that get some of that exploration side of things?
I think you hit it. The C and D is very prospective to us. That's not part of our MRE, but certainly has the characteristics that we even saw at Blueberry from the beginning. It's just we can't drill everything. So there's 4 or 5 bonanza type hits in that C and D. So I know we followed up on that. We had a blind discovery last year just south of the M zone at Scottie called the Wolf Zone. So we're waiting on assays from that. But mostly our big goal is to bring that open pit to indicated. We've told the market that. And so maybe 15-20% of our holes is exploration type holes this season. But we're already planning next year's with a lot more exploration holes just to show, we just have to remind everybody that we're not cut off anywhere. There's so much more, but our focus is to get that open pit stuff so we can sell it. So that is the focus mostly of this program. And then going into next year, once we get everything back, we'll be able to determine how close we are to having it fully indicated on specifically these two small open pits we have at Blueberry. But I suspect we're going to do a lot more exploration next season, but we're just trying to walk down the hill. I mean, you have to remember, I mean, our stocks moved a little bit here in the last couple, 3, 4 weeks, but these are 88-cent shares. You got to be very frugal with your drill meters from a dilutionary point of view.
Oh, fair enough. But I think just looking at some of these first holes from this season, you can see the average grade profile's got to be raising. So that brings up another interesting point. You work up a resource and you're working towards the PEA that should be out in, let's say, a month or so. But the economics in there, the next step will be going to the PFS where you'll have to get everything to the indicated category. And that's what you're doing here is you're jumping categories. A lot of times you lose ounces when that happens. But if you raise the grade profile, maybe speak to how that could wash some of that out.
Sure. I'd like to point out we're not going to pre-fees. We're going right into feasibility. So all the studies we're doing right now are feasibility levels with quotes. There will be no pre-fees. We have a high degree of confidence, again, with Sean and Kevin kind of backing us there. So no pre-fees. We're going right to feasibility. And yeah, these are encouraging. Again, it just doesn't deter us. I mean, these are even better than perhaps we imagined so far. Again, it's only the first 5 holes of maybe, do we get 100 holes in this year? I hope we do, but that's yet to be determined. There's still a month of drilling to go. So,
Well, let's talk about the plan forward. The next step is the PEA. What other work streams is the company working on behind the scenes to get all that data into the preliminary economic assessment?
sure. So, again, bringing all this open pit to the indicated, as we've discussed that. Other things is you're right. That PEA, from what we see, we should have mid-October sometime, maybe to the latter end of October. Just people are always late when they're supposed to give us information, but we're very comfortable. We're going to hit those targets there. So with the PEA and the work that we're doing right now, again, we've got Sean up there. We're doing all this baseline water testing. We've got a lot of geotechnical drilling that needs to be done, not necessarily looking for resources, but the competency of the rock and how we can do this. We've costed the camps. All that's kind of come to fruition right now. So a lot of work that's not necessarily exploration, but we have the team to do it. And yeah, we haven't hit any roadblocks yet. So I think that PEA comes out in October, and Sean and Tom has been working hard on a lot of that engineering studies, but we're all on track and haven't thrown any curveballs yet.
Okay. Well, we'll be looking for the economic study when that comes out. Well, hopefully, just a little bit more than a month away, but depending on when all that data comes back in. And then in the press release, you also teased again the bulk sample that's underway. It looks like, done a second blast here. So give us an update on the bulk sample and what you hope to achieve through this process of doing a bulk sample.
Well, I think the bulk sample is what's most exciting for us is the proof of concept, right? Because then it becomes extremely real. And what is somebody willing to buy that 10,000 ton sample? And I think we could see news on that in the very near future by the end of the year. Like I say, we're done blasting. I know we're mucking out the bottom part of that bend vein right now. I was just on site last week. Very, very exciting. Once it gets crushed, and then I think we can take a really good sample of what that might turn out to be, and we'll be able to put that out into the market. But reality is yeah, sure, we might get some non-dilution financing out of that, but mostly it's the proof of concept that we're excited about. And yeah, we're just weeks away or 4 weeks away from perhaps getting a full understanding. But from what we see within our camp, it's probably a little bit better than we imagined at the beginning. But we'll just have to wait a couple weeks here, and we'll see how that plays out. But we're very excited. It's a whole different world now when you're blowing up rocks and putting them in piles and separating ore from waste. It's been a real fun exercise for us.
Yeah, that is exciting. Well, it's exciting on several fronts. One, the proof of concept that you'll get to kind of look at how the bulk sample went compared to the PEA assumptions, but also nice to be getting paid on that rock. So that's nice to have some, like you say, non-dilutive revenue that could come in, but you learn so much in the process, and that's the main thing. So That's going to be another key milestone. And then just from a big picture for people listening into this, let's connect the dots here, Brad. You're working really hard. You got the resource out. You got the PEA in the works. You got this bulk sample. You're now doing a bigger drill program than the company has done the last few years. And you're going to be putting even more color around that, hopefully getting this categories from inferred into indicated. But all this is building towards your direct ship ore method where you can take all this ore, ship it over to Asia for processing, and you're very close to the deep water port. So maybe put that in context of this DSO model that the company has.
Sure. So, this is an advantage for Scottie and Scottie shareholders that perhaps other companies just don't have. I mean, we are blessed with all the infrastructure, and we are the second closest mine on the planet Earth, as close as we are to a deep water shipping facility. And quite funny, the closest mine happens to be the Premier mine just down to the south of us. So, when we started looking at this option, apart from, I think people, just assumed we'd sell our ore to either the Bruce Jack or to the Premier or find enough to go stand alone. And that was kind of even myself for the first 5 years. I didn't even have that concept of direct shipping of ore. But when Ascot started stumbling about a year ago, we thought, we better change our story, find a different plan. Like either we have to go drill the heck out of things and dilute us all because 700,000 ounces for a general market is just not going to cut it. And, I think people don't understand that those 700,000 high grade ounces are right on surface. And we believe something different than the general market feels. But we started talking to metals traders. We saw, Skeena got a really nice injection of promised cash from Orion. And we started going, well, they're going to ship their ore to that same port. And so we started talking to the metals traders about a year ago, and it was a concept. And after it was a very long time to get this Ocean Partners deal. And we were dealing with other competitors to Ocean Partners as well. But it was evidence to us about 3-4 months into that exercise that this is very viable. So we're just going, how do we differentiate ourselves from the pack? And a lot of great stories. It's been a lot of pain over, you've been speaking to me for years now and a lot of frustration and pain, but we're doing so good. Why doesn't the market recognize that? But if we put ourselves into a different category and price our ore, we just felt the market wasn't giving us the credit. And so we just thought we'll force the market to, that's the PEA, let's value that ounce in the ground. I just can't emphasize is that we have so much more blue sky. We're not finished exploring. And it was a risky move to kind of go, okay, we've done this much. Let's get a resource out with the limited drilling we've done. I mean, that MRE is only 55,000 meters drilling in total. And we believe we can continue to add ounces at the same rate that we've been doing. Might be a little bit more expensive as you go down deeper because the drill holes cost more. But, we just kind of focused on that top 300 meters of Blueberry, and we've given that to the market. And then, as you can see, we're putting these results out now, and then we'll see some deeper holes. And, I think we'll also be adding ounces as well. So the future's bright, and hopefully the market recognizes that, we just carved out this piece, go, look how profitable this is, and we'll continuing adding ounces. So there's a lot more gold to be found.
Well, and Brad, one other layer that you're going to put on here is since you're going to be trucking this down to the deep sea port and shipping it over by barge, the most expensive part is shipping it by the truck, the 40 kilometers versus the barge all the way to Asia. But to make it even more profitable, you're exploring ore sorting and you're doing some studies there. So maybe just talk about the potential to also upgrade this ore so that you have less waste and you ship more valuable product to those deep sea ports.
Absolutely. I mean, the handling of ore is something that costs a lot of money. And we've already did the phase 1 ore sorting study, and it came out just fantastic. Our ore is really amenable to ore sorting because the machines and the computers aren't looking for, anomalies in quartz, where a classic quartz vein system. We basically have this very finely disseminated gold, very little visible gold, which I don't like visible gold. I do to one point, and one point I don't. But it's literally just density of the rock that these machines are sorting, right? So the light rocks get kicked into the waste pile, and we're only shipping these heavy rocks. So it's actually, when you look at that phase 1, that's a PEA level study, but we're going to have a phase two out, I believe, in October as well, maybe even in September, where we shipped a full size sample over to South Africa and to Saskatchewan, where there's two different technologies, a Radios and a Tomo machine. But we'll have that, and that's feasibility level, and it's rather than just bench test, it'll be a full scale sorting. And so we're excited. We've heard things are going as planned, but that news will come out soon. And then because ore sorting can be hit and miss for different types of deposits, but that phase two that we'll have out here soon should show, hopefully, that this is going to work out as we expect it to or hope to. And so we're not deterred. We're actually quite excited to get that information out. And again, shipping waste costs a lot of money. And so that's what this will do, is allow us, 40 kilometers down to that port, as long as you're shipping ore and you get paid from these smelters on the grade. So it's very, very important. And I think we come out flying colors on it, but we're only weeks away from seeing.
Well, I just think that's another important angle to it, and it could definitely optimize the process here. So much work going on, Brad. It's kind of amazing how you've transformed as a company just over the last year or so, from really an exploration company, and you still are an exploration company. You're doing your biggest exploration program of all time, but moving quickly towards the PEA, a bulk sample, ore sorting samples, and then piggybacking over the PFS straight to the feasibility study. So much going on with the company. I guess just from a high level, what do you want to leave people with as far as how you're positioned now and how the Scottie Resources here in 2025, it's a lot different company than it was in prior years.
Well, it is and it isn't, but you're right. We, opened a door that we went through and we can't turn around. I mean, it's all to do with getting my permit amended, because Scottie was blessed and we had a mine permit, but we got to bring that up to today's standards. And we have so many things going for us, but that's why I get this indicated right to feasibility. We plan on being able to sell that ore. Now, whether it just goes down the road or up the road or across the ocean, all those options are still available to us. And, direct shipping ore, even if I just move it 20 kilometers, is still shipping of the ore. It's just how far do you have to ship it. So I think we put ourselves in, just continue to have a lot of optionality. And now we're talking business, and we have optionality in selling rock. So I think it's going to be exciting. Obviously, we see at this time that the market's actually moving in our favor, not just the gold price, but now you see the market reflecting the actual gold price rather than just central banks buying the gold. So maybe we are in that moment that I would have thought we would have been at 4 or 5 years ago. But if the market's recognizing these things, and they wanted to crunch numbers, and then you look at what Scottie has to offer, there's a lot of value to unlock. I don't think we're even close to where we should be fairly valued. And the market will determine that. But let's see where we are in the beginning of the new year.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it up there. We'll definitely keep following along, but a lot of tailwinds in the sales of the whole sector, as you say, a higher gold price, but also a better market where companies are finally starting to get better valuations, more traction with investors, more interest, more volume coming in, and then all the catalysts you have on tap. So there's going to be a lot of news flow coming out of Scottie Resources, and we'll be following along with it here at the KE report. But for those of you listening in, definitely click on the link below down in the show notes. It takes you over to the Scottie Resources website, right to their news section, where you can sign up for updates that hit your email inbox, or just follow along with the news as it drops. But there's going to be a lot of it. Brad, keep us posted. We'll get you back on. And as always, looking forward to our next conversation.
All right. Well, I'll see you tomorrow anyways in Beaver Creek. Look forward to it, Chad. And